This is part two of who I am and why I do what I do. As I told you in part one, I'm an applied kinesiologist. What I didn't really share with you is that not only during my regular work, but on the side, I work as a private investigator. I'm a PI. Not a private investigator of crime, but a private investigator of health. The reason I was able to get the kind of help that I got at the applied kinesiologist in Temecula, California, was because he had the detective skills and training to really figure out what was going on with me. Like I shared with you in part one, I had really severe acne when I was about 19 or 20 or even before then. I mean, literally, I was having about 3 or 4 eyes instead of two. So people could call me Four Eyes, not because I wore glasses, but because I had these craters in my face. I'm really fortunate that the Accutane medication I used was so effective, even though I put it down and I'm really harsh about it and have a strong opinion about the dangers of the Accutane. I'm also grateful that, my skin looks decent now. So before I tried the Accutane, I had tried all kinds of stuff. I tried benzoyl peroxide. You all have seen that on the supermarket shelves for acne. And when I first used the benzoyl peroxide, it seemed to help the acne a little bit just for a few days or a week, and then the acne started to get worse. In fact, where I put the benzoyl peroxide is where the acne would come up underneath it. So that seemed not quite right. I was ending up using this thing that was a prescription medication called Cleocin T after the benzoyl peroxide didn't work quite right. So the Cleocin T worked well, which was great for about maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And then at the end of those 3 weeks or so, it would come back even worse than before I started using it. Why? Because these are toxic medications that go onto the skin. They're absorbed into the skin. The skin is like a sponge. And then they go into the bloodstream. And then they're pulled out in the liver. And the liver is the very thing that needs to be healthy to have healthy skin. A person who's detoxifying poorly has often a skin condition or different types of skin conditions. So, at any rate, that's one of the reasons why I know so much about this stuff is because I've lived some nightmares, unfortunately, when it comes to health. So, like I was saying, the Cleocin T didn't work, the benzoyl peroxide didn't work. Then I tried something called Retin A, and that stuff didn't work at all. I mean, my skin got way worse when I was using Retin A. Ironically, Retin A is used as a beauty treatment for women who want to get rid of lines. I guess men can do it too, but more popular among women. But again, this is a toxic vitamin A cream with synthetic vitamin A in it. So the dermatologist I went to, who practices at UCSF, or did at the time, he prescribed the Accutane. And I didn't mention this in part one, but it says on the label of Accutane, if you are a woman, you must get a pregnancy test prior to using this medication. If you're, thinking about going and getting a lot of sun while on the medication, forget it, because one of the contraindications was to get direct sunlight while you were using the medication. The other thing about it is it warned that you might get really dry skin and end up having, peeling skin when using the medication. It even said something about having floaters in one's eyes when using it. So I used the medication. I ended up seeing floaters in my eyes, got really dry skin that started to peel, like it said, and I was having, these symptoms, right? I didn't get too much sun because it warned not to. I wasn't a woman, so I didn't have to worry about getting a pregnancy test. But as you can imagine, since this stuff would cause birth defects in newborn children, and it caused all these different effects, not side effects, but effects. These were the effects of the medication. With all these different effects, you can imagine this was a really toxic medication. And the main thing that deals with toxicity in the body is the liver, more so than the other organs. I mean, many of the organs do, but especially the liver. So I ended up with the irritable bowel syndrome. I was going to the bathroom 4 or 5 times a day or 6 times. Sound familiar? Yeah. I was having headaches that were minor, but I did have them. I was getting depressed. I was having the fibromyalgia-like symptoms. I was having a inability to concentrate. I couldn't sleep well at night. I had all kinds of difficulties. The night sweats at night. I mean, it was just not good. Okay, so what happened was when I saw this man in Temecula who was an applied kinesiologist, he really helped me. And the reason why was because he did the correct detective work. He did things that I didn't understand what he was doing. He would take my blood pressure, but instead of taking it on one arm in the seated position, like the left arm where the heart is mainly on the left side, he would take it on both sides, both arms, seated in the standing position, and then lying down. And he claimed that by doing that, he could understand about my heart and kidneys and my adrenal glands, and to some extent, maybe perhaps my liver, and even a little bit about my emotional state. Didn't talk to me a lot about it. He was just doing the exam. He checked my temperature. He did something called a zinc taste test and an oral pH test, which just checks with litmus paper in the mouth to see what my pH would be like. That would kind of reflect how my digestion was at the time, in addition to the zinc taste test. So he did a lot of different things that were different. He had different skills. He had different training. But it was the skills and the training and the understanding of the human body, and it was his education and his abilities that allowed him to help me in ways that nobody else was able to help me. Again, this was so big of a deal for me that I dedicated my entire life to studying these therapies. I decided that this was a worthwhile cause. I mean, I had been to numerous different healthcare providers, not just this one fellow. I'd been to a number of different chiropractors, massage therapists. I'd received acupuncture. I told you about the 40 different acupuncture treatments and 16 different chiropractic visits I'd had. So with all of that, since I didn't get any results from those things, but I did get results from him, and I even saw another doctor or two who used the applied kinesiology, total body modification, neuroemotional technique, and those therapies in different systems of healthcare. Since they were able to help me and he was able to help me, I decided that this was definitely a worthwhile cause. While my colleagues were out studying how to party during the weekends when they didn't have classes and doing a lot of exercise and whatnot, I ended up going to the continuing education programs and studying applied kinesiology and total body modification and neuroemotional technique. I fully and completely dedicated myself to these therapies because I knew that I would never get tired or bored of helping people with their health on a deep level in ways that other people weren't able to. Because if this were able to make a difference for me and nothing else would, then I would be able to make a difference for other people. That's why I do what I do.